Yeah, what's good, YouTube? Hey, bro, we got Mark Rober beating 5 arcade game. Beating 5 arcade games with science. Mark Rober makes this shit fun, bro.
Arcade wearing just your normal everyday backpack. Only technically it's not your normal everyday backpack, because when I set it here and then nonchalantly load a few balls into the water bottle, then it plays the game like a good robot should, and I win all the tickets. And that's pretty cool, but what if I told you I made similar backpacks not just for
Dog. You just said fuck it, nigga. We cheating
game,
today.
And this one, basically coming up with contraptions to absolutely dominate 5 of the most common arcade games, including some hacks that cost less than $1 and actually work to set world record ticket payouts. But we also secretly recorded data from a bunch of different arcades. So I'll teach you the strategies to beat the games that give out the most tickets, along with showing you the 5 games we discovered are actual scams. Don't ever step foot in another arcade again until you've watched this video in its entirety. Let's get started.
I'm finna clickbait the shit out of this. Well, I'm about to be like,
over-engineered bowling ball that I can control just by leaning. Because I thought, what if I took that same concept and applied it to mini golf? And while that idea could be really useful for getting a good golf score,
yo, that's wild. You just, if I just see a ball, see me swerve, man. I don't know what the hell. But yeah, I'm titling this How to Win Every Game in the Arcade featuring Mark Rober. That's the title. If I don't title it that, then I forgot. Post edit. Yo, these small cookies be buzzing, bro. I ain't trying to eat any though, but they be buzzing. On me. Pause. Oh, pause. Pause for that one, bro. 2 unskippables as well. Y'all are dickhead.
There's just no real payoff for my efforts, which focused my attention to the holy grail of any mini golf course, the arcade. It was time to recoup all the allowance money I've lost as a kid, starting first with skee ball. And before we really see it in action, let me first explain how it works. Because if you take away the backpack, you'll find a Frankenstein version of a softball pitching machine that we chopped up and modified so it runs just off batteries. Then
this nigga is different, bro.
Make sure the skee balls get released one at a time. So if you just turn it on, then we put a ball in here, it fires the ball like this. The coolest part here though is when it's placed in the backpack, you roll this pocket up to reveal the ball exit, and then place this water bottle here as a clever disguise to load up to 3 balls at a time. Now of course, if you don't have a secret robot backpack, here's how you win this game as a mere human. For starters, if you watch the pros play, yes, there are skee ball pros, they actually aim for the 4,000 point hole. And this actually makes sense because even if your throw is a little too weak or a little too strong, you're still getting significant points. A common mistake is to take the bait and go all or nothing by aiming for the small 10,000 point hole in the corner. The pros aim for this only in desperate situations where they're behind and they need big points to make a comeback for the win. The other big tip is to brace your leg against the base of the machine in the same spot each time. And then try and only move your arm, which will make your throws more repeatable and accurate because you're reducing the variables that could lead to error. So if you want to win, just follow these tips and practice a bunch. Or you could just go with my route.
Imagine having to come into the arcade after this, nigga, bro. Like, you're like, alright, bro, let's go play this game. You come in, you see the record for this, you're like, alright, yo, are you serious, bro? Like, I only hit 10Ks? I'm like, damn, nigga, cheated for real.
So then when you're all done dominating, or if you think one of the workers might be getting suspicious, you can just pick up the backpack at any point and walk away with a bunch of tickets on your card. Up next is one of my personal favorites, basketball. In this case, the backpack is being used just to smuggle the special mechanism inside. Because to the untrained eye, this is just a normal basketball.
Oh
when
my
in fact,
god.
it's a robot in disguise. Now before I show you exactly how it works, you first need to understand how these games work. Just underneath each rim is an infrared laser and a detector. And then on the front of the rim, on the other side of that metal plate, is a reflector. So when the laser beam shines straight forward, it bounces off the reflector, and then the sensor's like, yep, I can see the beam. So when a ball goes through the hoop, it breaks the beam, and the sensor's like, aha, I didn't see it for a second. At which point it tells the game to add 2 points to your total, because that means you must have scored. In engineering, we call this a beam break detector, and it's the exact same concept you have as a safety feature on your garage door. So if you really want to destroy the high score here, the ball needs to break the beam, then somehow get out of the way.
So this is what I'm assuming, right? As a casual nigga that don't know this shit, right? I'm assuming the technology has in this ball, regardless, as long as you throw it high enough, there's gonna be some type of shit in the ball that just breaks the beam, miss or make.
Beam reconnects, and then come back and break the beam again over and over again as fast as possible. But if you think about it, the whole ball doesn't need to actually get out of the way, just the part in front of the beam itself. And how might you do that? Well, one way is to 3D print the bottom hemisphere of a basketball in 2 parts attached together through some linear guide rods, then add a battery, microcontroller, and servo motor so the bottom part of the
just casually do this.
Down. This way it would reconnect the beam and then break it over and over again and register 2 points every time that happened. Now you just need a way to grab the rim so you can hang out there while you perform these shenanigans. You have some pneumatic pistons connected to a mini pressure intake controlled by a solenoid valve triggered by an RF remote.
Oh, so the ball
normally, and then with one push of a button, piston rods would shoot out and grab the rim, and then once mischief was managed, you trigger the remote and retract. Now if you just add another 3D printed hemisphere on top, then glue on the actual basketball skin, and when you put it all together, it would look something like this. Now if you don't happen to have a robo ball, here's a few tips that will help you get the high score for this.
Yo, niggas doing left and right.
Never want to waste time waiting for a ball to roll down to you. And since these games normally come in pairs, just swipe your card on both games and then temporarily borrow the second set of balls. Now this should give you plenty more than you need, so just keep the balls that are the least inflated. Now you start the game and get into a rhythm where you finish your shot with one hand and then start grabbing or replacing the ball with your other hand before your first shot has even gone in. Or if the rim is close and you want to get really extreme, you just go with a two-handed shooting strategy like this guy. But even that strategy is no match for my spherical transformer.
Yo, bro.
I just shoot the ball with one hand and then hit the remote right as it's about to go in. And now as the ball just sits there articulating, I simply watch those sweet, sweet points rack themselves right on up.
Yo, dog.
And then as soon as time's up, I just hit the remote again, and the piston rods retract. And while no one's the wiser, it's time to control.
This guy, bro. This is fucking amazing, bro. Niggas be cheating for real.
A buttload of tickets and a new lifetime high score. Next up is a really popular game called Quick Drop, where you hit this button to release these ping pong balls at the right moment, and if you get all
imagine he made those other pistons faster, so just like
22 seconds allotted without missing any shots, then you hit the mega jackpot. But the thing is, to get all 50 balls in before the time runs out, there's essentially no margin for human error, which is good news for me because robot backpacks don't make human errors. Now you notice when I walk up, I can just set the backpack down and it self-registers right in place. The trick here is we 3D printed an exact negative replica of the button housing on the game. And this piston rod that pokes through and pushes the button on the game is attached to this solenoid that's controlled by this Arduino microcontroller, and it tells it the exact timing needed to beat the game. Now if you're trying this on your own, here's what you need to know. To successfully do this in 22 seconds, you have to drop 4 balls in each bucket, except in 2 buckets, you've got to drop 5. Now dropping 5 into these 2 buckets isn't impossible, but the timing's so tight, it's really hard to pull off without them hitting the rim and bouncing out. Now the jackpot starts at 500 tickets, and every time someone loses, it goes up by 2 tickets, and each time that happens, the game gives you just a little more total time on the clock. And so if you ever see the jackpot at more than 625 tickets, enough time is now on the clock where you only need 4 balls per bucket to win, and it's definitely worth trying it a few times because that makes it so much easier to pull off. Alternatively,
God damn, bro.
For the jackpot to rise up, you can just go to school for 6 years to get a degree in mechanical engineering and do it this way.
Fuck it up.
And then even as all 554 sweet, delicious tickets are being added to your account, you can just inconspicuously walk away with your backpack in tow. For our next game, we've got the perennial arcade favorite, air hockey. Now this is the most complicated of all the builds because if you look closely here at the top, there's a hole in the bag for a camera to look out through. Then stripping away the backpack, you can see that camera connects to the brains, and in this case, it's a Raspberry Pi, which is basically like a mini computer instead of just an Arduino microcontroller like all the other other builds have used so far. The reason this one needs a bit more brain power is because it uses computer vision to track the puck, and based off the trajectory, it makes a prediction, then sends instructions to rotate this servo, which is attached to an arm that moves the paddle and protects the goal.
Nice.
And perhaps my favorite part of this build is that it obviously won't work if the whole thing is sliding and moving all around. So we need to anchor it down securely into position, but we need to do that quickly and discreetly. Our solution here is a pair of neodymium toggle magnets. So if you simply turn both of these knobs, the rare earth magnets move into position and anchor to the steel frame of the air hockey table, and it's basically cemented in place, as you can see here. As for the human strategy here, playing air hockey might seem like total chaos, but there are 4 simple tricks that will pretty much guarantee you can beat any casual player. The first is to hold the paddle like this and not like this. Doing that allows you to really whip the paddle around and gain extra speed on your shots. The second is that for your default defensive position, you want your paddle to be out here, not right up against the goal right here. That's because this cuts down the angle and you only have to move the paddle back and forth this far to protect the whole goal versus back and forth this far if you're against the edge. This is the same reason goalies will come out of the goal if there's a breakaway in soccer. Even for a bank shot, you now just have to move the paddle a small distance diagonally back like this. So your paddle should essentially always stay inside a triangle like this when you're playing defense. Now when you watch professionals play, yes, there are air hockey professionals, you'll see them employ both these first 2 tips. The third trick you'll also see is they try and play for possession. You want to try and cushion your opponent's shot and gain possession of the puck so you can set up your own shot, which leads to the last tip. Mix up the straight shots and bank shots, but try and practice at least one trick shot like this one where you hit the puck down into the corner and then when it rebounds back to you, you hit the bank shot for the win. Here's what that looks like in action. Now the real benefit of my backpack system is you can be playing your opponent, but then when you get a phone call or you have to attend to some other important matters, you're going to be in safe hands. And then at your own leisure, you can eventually just come back and finish things off. Then with
I'm not even holding it properly there.
You just disengage the 2 toggle magnets with a twist, and you're good to go. And finally, we've got the ultimate test of strength, the punching bag. Now for this one, to make it more
this is the one in the thumbnail.
I need to find and challenge the guy in the arcade whose muscles look the least like mine. So I stepped up first and rocked a 6, 7, 8 out of a possible 9, you know, 9. But then
that's
he
not
stepped
bad.
up
Golly, boy.
And rocked an 8, 7, 7. And since that's bigger than 6, 7, 8, the trash talking commenced.
Maybe spend a little less time at the computer, a little more time in the weight room.
So that was disappointing, but lucky for me, I had a trick up my sleeve. Like, actually, because that's a fake arm, in order to disguise this.
That was the one who's still a little inadequate.
It's basically a bionic punching arm powered by 2 spring-loaded pistons. To set the springs, we use a threaded rod and a drill, and once under tension, they're held in place with a quick-release mechanism I can trigger with my finger at the exact moment I want to punch a thing. And I would classify the initial test in the lab as encouraging. Now it's important to note, to play by the rules for this game, there's no side punching, pushing, running, kicking, or headbutting. But you'll notice there's no rule against spring-loaded piston punching things. So now that my moment of sheer domination had arrived, I stepped up.
Fuck sakes, bro. Yo, if he gets a 999, that's actually crazy, you know? If he gets a 999, I'm gonna be impressed, bro. To be quite honest with you. Why I keep getting these double unskippables, bro? What's going on, bro? Niggas just wasted 30 seconds in the video talking to y'all about nothing. But nah, if he gets the 999, I'll suck up. I'll flip. I'm not your age, bro. What? Ain't much.
And rocked in 838, which was less than 877, which was disappointing.
Dang it!
And in hindsight, I should have known it's really hard to compete with the human body in terms of things like punching and throwing, because we're just so efficient with those mechanics, and I have to sacrifice a lot of the speed and momentum of my own arm body system when I'm wearing that heavy wrist-mounted puncher. But you know what? I'm a fighter, and what I lack in muscle mass, I make up for in tenacity. So out of curiosity, I took a closer look to see how the machine actually works. And it turns out it has a game break sensor just like the basketball game. So it's that odd-shaped metal piece which is attached to the axle and punching bag rotates around, the beam has this tiny window to hit the sensor. You can see the sensor in the front view here. So the game cleverly measures how many milliseconds the sensor sees the beam for, and from that, it infers how quickly the bag is rotating on the axle, and therefore how hard it was punched. And this gave me an idea. So I went to the prize counter and redeemed a few of my jackpot tickets I'd been stocking up in exchange for a Pez dispenser. Step 1 was to unwrap and eat some of the Pez, because they're just delicious. And then for step 2, I removed the head and cut the arcade card like this, and then taped it here, and then went and tracked down my new friend. My theory was that if I extended the Pez dispenser and modified card out like this, and then let go, the force of the spring would retract the card, and it would break the beam so fast, the machine would think it was an insanely fast punch. But would it actually work? And it turns out, it absolutely does, because I maxed out the machine. So...
Mine took 2 little things like that. I said, oh yeah, hold that. GG's.
It absolutely does, because I maxed out the machine. So, yeah. Use this information responsibly, kids. Now, a few years ago, I made a
That's wild.
and collected data on all the games.
That's wild, bro.
Games were rigged, and then showed how to beat them. So this time around, instead of the carnival, I once again bribed some family friends with unlimited Slurpees in exchange for them collecting a bunch of data at some local arcades.
Okay.
And in addition to uncovering which games were scams, which I'll cover in just a minute, here's what we discovered. For starters,
yeah, you're
the
supposed
most
to do that
popular
part,
games in
huh?
the arcade were the redemption games, as opposed to the experience games. And here's what I mean by that. Redemption games are the games where the goal is to win tickets. So like the coin pushers, or this Plinko game, or spin the wheel. On the other end of the spectrum, you have experience games, like air hockey, skee ball, or racing games. It's a trade-off, because the games on this side of the spectrum give out more tickets, but it's not as much about the fun of the experience. And then in the middle of the spectrum, you have games like the ping pong drop, or hit the clown, that have middle-of-the-road ticket payouts, but they're also middle-of-the-road fun to play. Now, since the games on this side were a lot more popular, they earn a lot more money for the arcade, even when you factor in the higher ticket payouts. We found that for a medium-sized arcade on a busy day, the less popular games were played 25 times, and the more popular ones could be played up to 250 times or more. At an average gameplay of $1, that means each game makes $25 to $250 per day, or about $7,000 to $70,000 per year. And finally, we found that if your sole goal was to win,
I'm buying an arcade.
pusher games like this Avengers one seem to be the best return on investment. But honestly, you can just ask one of the workers there who are hanging out making minimum wage and are probably pretty chill, because chances are they'll just tell you which ones they regularly see pay out the best. Alright, so finally, let's get to the real juicy part and talk about which games we discovered were basically scams. Now, I actually have some experience in this area because a few years back, I built my original backpack arcade robot to dominate this game. Basically, it would sense the light turning on a few lights in front of the jackpot light, then it would hit the button with sub-millisecond precision, and then we would touch nothing in between runs, and yet it would alternate between missing both short and long. In other words, the timing on the jackpot light doesn't match up with the duration it's lit, and it's very different from all the other lights. You can actually test this yourself by picking a random light, and you'll find miraculously you could somehow hit that random light every single time you try. Now this caused me to dig a little deeper, and after a bit of research, I was able to locate a copy of the owner's manual, at which point I discovered the arcade owner could just manually set how often a jackpot should be won. So this time around, I was curious what other games
niggas are scamming, bro.
You think it's a game of skill, but in reality, the arcade owner is controlling when a jackpot's won. And as it turns out, this really popular game called Stacker employs the same trick. This other really popular game, Keymaster, and this Cut the Rope game are also, in fact, running the same scam. In all three cases, I was able to get a hold of a copy of their owner's manual, and each one has some language around how the arcade owner can specify how often a jackpot occurs. I also found many, but not all claw machines have language around how it will close with full strength, but then back off to a much weaker strength of whatever is set by the owner. For this reason, it's best to try for prizes closest to the exit hole to minimize the amount of time it's held in the claws. And I call these games scams because they present themselves as winnable games of skill, when in reality, it's essentially a random dice roll that is heavily evenly stacked against you. And just like at the carnival, the most lucrative
Casino
games
thing.
are people overestimate their chances of winning because they seem to get close, but they don't quite win. In gambling psychology, this is known as the near-miss effect, and it will lead to increased play of the slot machine. But this is much worse than a slot machine, because at least in that case, you know it doesn't matter how you pull the lever because it's random chance. And on top of that, those games are regulated, so there is a minimum payout required by law. So for every dollar, for example, put into a slot machine, they have to pay out at least 80 cents back to the players. But for those scam arcade games I just mentioned, the default payout rate is on average 20 cents for every dollar you spend.
God
The
damn.
owner could basically set that to 0 and no one would know, and that would be perfectly legal. And that's especially messed up because it's primarily played by kids. So if you remember nothing else, just try and pick games.
Why just has a 10 mil sub button in the back
Because in those cases,
with bare
you just never
fingerprints?
really know
Come
what
on,
your
bro.
chances are. These games, however, are all great options to at least have
At least you got a
20%
button.
of your actual odds of winning. I've checked the manual for all of these, and what you see is exactly what you get. And I can vouch, some arcades are more fair about this than others. For example, my home arcade here refuses to carry any of the games that can be rigged against you, which I think is pretty cool. However, if they happen to see this, my only suggestion is that moving forward, they should probably institute a no backpacks allowed policy. And perhaps also don't let people redeem tickets for Pez dispensers.
That's crazy, bro. Nigga just found the life hack for arcade games.
Is a dad finder. It was made by a dad who's also a pilot, so his kids always know which direction and how far away he is when he's traveling around the world. And this contraption
Damn.
feeds your dog with the pull of a lever and went on to get successfully funded as a 6-figure Kickstarter campaign. So what do these and tens of thousands of more projects just like them have in common?
fuck?
Well, they were all designed by folks who took my creative engineering class at studio.com.
That's
The best part
fucking
about
sick.
being a maker and an engineer is you can come up with clever solutions for your real life challenges, like winning more tickets at the arcade. It's like a superpower, but it's a superpower you can learn, and I love to see others catch that spark, which is why a few times a year I teach a month-long creative engineering course, and enrollment for the latest session is open right now. Now you might be like, hold up, Mark, didn't you just launch the Crunch Labs Build Box, that monthly toy that gets delivered to a kid where you build it together with them on video and then explore all the juicy physics that make it work? Why are you now back to talking about this class? And it's like, yeah. But the problem is that we sold
This is a whole lot of W
certified
promotion.
ton of subscriptions we had in
I'ma
stock
let it
in,
rock.
like, less than a week. So I don't really want to talk about that until we have more in stock, which will for sure happen in time for the holidays. So if you want to guarantee you get dibs on one for Christmas before we sell out again, you better get yourself on the wait list at crunchlabs.com ASAP. And now you might be thinking, alright, but what's the difference between the box and your class? And the answer is the Crunch Labs monthly build box is sort of the first step. It's a monthly build I walk you through where I teach you to think like an engineer. So if you're teenager-ish all the way down to way younger, it's perfect for you. You gotta get on that wait list. But if you're teenager-ish all the way up to way older, the creative engineering class is perfect for you. Because the class is more open-ended. It
Interesting.
covers my full engineering design process, all the way from how I come up with an idea to prototyping to finalizing the build and then giving it character. I show you everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm doing, and I do it 3 times. Over the course of a month, you're gonna watch me design and create 3 totally original builds, and I'm gonna guide you through finishing 3 creative builds of your own. And this is an online class, so you can take it from anywhere and work it around your schedule, but it's fully immersive and intensive. So whether you're
Fucking
a
hell.
professional, a complete beginner, or an experienced engineer, this class has been designed to meet you wherever you're at and then level up your skills. So go to studio.com/MarkRober or use the link in the
Well, that's
description
fire,
to see what
bro.
other people have
I
said
damn near
about their
wanna do that
experience,
shit.
and enroll, and I'll see you in class. Thanks for watching.
Help your creativity, you know what I'm saying? That's fire. What's this? Crunch Labs? I don't know, I fucks with that, bro. Guess the pro basketball player in real life? Oh, fuck. I raced the first Ironman 70.3. And this happened? Dude gets full body casted? Dude, perfect? Oh my god. Becoming the best sideman cherry. Yo, there's so much shit to watch, bro. YouTube on top right now.